The sun was setting on Pearl Haven, a human colony at the edge of the Orion Reach. Orange light fell across the landing field where rescue ships returned after a long mission. Among the survivors was a quiet alien woman named Lara. Her skin was pale silver. Her eyes shone like soft blue glass. She walked slowly down the ramp, holding the hand of a wounded child she had saved. Captain Daniel Reeve watched from the edge of the crowd. He was a tall man with calm eyes, a soldier who had seen too many battles. He had lost his wife 3 years ago in the Delta War and raised 2 children alone. When he saw Lyra helping people, something in his heart softened. Most aliens feared humans, but she stayed to help even when the field was burning. Later that evening, Daniel went to the med bay. Lyra sat on a bed, quiet and tired, her hands trembling from exhaustion. A doctor scanned her vitals and nodded, saying she would recover soon. When the doctor left, Daniel stepped closer and said gently, "You saved 3 people today, including a child who couldn't even breathe. Thank you." Lyra looked down, her voice soft and strange. "I only did what I could. Your world helped me too." There was silence between them for a moment. Outside, rain began to fall against the windows. Daniel noticed the sadness in her eyes and asked, "Where will you go now?" Lyra hesitated before answering. "Nowhere yet. My ship is gone. My people will not take me back." He frowned. "Why not?" Her fingers gripped the blanket as she whispered, "Because I am barren. I can't have children. My kind see that as a failure." Daniel blinked, surprised. He expected her to be afraid of humans, not ashamed of herself. He sat down on the chair beside her bed and said quietly, "You think that makes you less. But you're wrong." She looked at him in confusion. "Among my kind, the family line is everything. I cannot give life, so I have no value." Daniel smiled gently. "Then you'll just love mine." Lyra stared at him, not understanding at first. He laughed softly. "I have 2 kids. They'll love you, and they could use someone who sings lullabies again." Her lips trembled, unsure if it was kindness or pity, but Daniel's tone was calm and real, the way a father speaks to someone who is already trusted. Outside, the rain grew stronger. Thunder rolled, and the lights flickered. Lyra whispered, "Your children? They would not fear me?" Daniel shook his head. "They're used to strange things. Their father is one." The next day, Lyra walked into Daniel's home on the West Hill. The 2 children, Mira and John, ran to the door, their faces bright with curiosity. "Dad, is she an alien?" John asked. Daniel nodded. "Yes, and she helped save people, so be kind." Mira smiled shyly and offered Lyra a small flower she had made from crystal foil. Lyra took it carefully, amazed by its simple beauty. Days passed. Lyra stayed in the guest room while the rescue center decided what to do with the alien survivors. Every morning she woke early, helping Daniel cook and clean. She didn't eat much, just a small plate of fruit. She watched how the children played, how Daniel always tried to make them laugh. She began humming soft alien songs while washing dishes. One evening, Myra asked, "Aunt Lyra, what does that song mean?" Lyra smiled faintly. "It means home is where love grows." At night, when everyone slept, Lyra would walk outside and look at the sky. 2 moons floated above the colony, and distant ships blinked like stars. She thought of her own world where silence ruled. There were no children's voices there, only echoes of what was lost. Her eyes filled with tears, but she quickly wiped them away. Inside the house, she heard Daniel talking softly to his daughter. "You did well today," he said. "Lyra smiled because of your song." Lyra pressed her hand to her chest, feeling warmth she had never known. A week later, the colony council came to interview her. They asked cold questions. "Why did you come here? Can we trust you? What are your intentions?" Lyra answered carefully, but honestly. "I came because your people helped the dying. I stayed because one man smiled at me when no one else did." The officer wrote something down but said nothing. After they left, Daniel laughed. You just gave them a reason to write a whole report about kindness. Lyra tilted her head. Is that bad? He smiled. No, it's very human. That night a storm swept through Pearl Haven. Power went out. Lightning flashed across the sky. John screamed as thunder shook the house. Without thinking, Lyra rushed to his room. Wrapping her arms around him, her skin glowed faintly blue in the dark. Like a night lamp, John whispered, You're warm, and fell asleep. Daniel stood at the door, watching silently, his eyes soft. He whispered to himself, I think we needed her more than she needed us. When morning came, sunlight broke through the clouds. The house smelled of fresh bread and laughter. Lyra sat at the table with Mira, brushing her silver hair. Daniel poured coffee and said, Looks like you're part of this family now. Lyra paused, unsure what to say, her eyes shimmering in the light. Finally she whispered, Then maybe I'm not barren after all. Perhaps love is another kind of creation. Daniel looked at her and smiled. Exactly. Outside, the children laughed, and the camera panned to the glowing horizon of Pearl Haven. The narrator's voice ended softly. Sometimes the heart builds what biology cannot. The days on Pearl Haven passed quietly, filled with the sounds of wind and children's laughter. Lyra slowly became part of Daniel's home, though she never tried to replace what was lost. She moved gently through the house like a calm breeze, never loud, never demanding. Mira and John adored her, calling her Star Lady, because her silver eyes sparkled whenever the sunlight touched them. Every morning Lyra helped Daniel prepare breakfast. She had learned how to make human food by watching videos, sometimes mixing alien herbs into the soup. Daniel joked that her cooking could heal sadness, and even the children believed it. At the table, she told stories from her world dailies about glowing forests, crystal oceans, and flying beasts that sang to the moon. The children listened wide-eyed, their spoons forgotten halfway to their mouths. At night, when the children slept, Daniel often found Lyra on the porch, staring at the twin moons. He would step beside her, holding a cup of warm tea, and ask softly, You miss your home? She would nod but say, Your world is loud, but it has life. My world forgot how to laugh. Daniel smiled. Then maybe you were meant to bring laughter back, starting here. Lyra looked at him with quiet wonder. Never used to kindness that simple. In town, not everyone accepted her. Some humans whispered that aliens brought trouble. Others said Daniel had lost his mind. One day at the market, a man bumped into her and muttered, Keep your alien hands off our food. Daniel stepped forward, calm but firm. She's with me, he said. The man scoffed and left, and Lyra looked down, whispering, I cause problems for you. Daniel shook his head. You remind them that we can still be better. Later that evening, Mira came home crying. A classmate had teased her, saying her family was strange because they lived with an alien. Before Daniel could speak, Lyra knelt beside the girl and placed her glowing hand on Myra's chest. Listen, she said, you have a brave heart, not a strange one. Myra smiled through tears. But they said you don't belong here. Lyra's voice was soft but strong. Then they will learn what belonging really means. That night, Daniel watched as Lyra told the children an old alien bedtime story. In it, a lonely creature searched the stars for a family who would not fear her light. When the creature finally found them, they did not ask where she came from, only if she was hungry. As she finished the story, John was already asleep, his small hand resting in hers. Daniel realized the story was about her, and maybe also about him. Weeks passed, and the house began to change. The dull walls were painted with glowing patterns from Lyra's culture. Mira learned alien songs, and John built models of starships from scrap metal. Sometimes Daniel would walk into the room and see them all laughing together. He would stop quietly, afraid that if he moved, the moment might disappear. But not everything was peaceful. Late one evening, While Daniel repaired a power line outside, Lyra sensed something. Her eyes glowed faint blue as she turned toward the dark forest beyond the fence. She could feel a strange vibration in the air, a frequency only her kind could hear. When Daniel returned, she was standing in the rain, staring into the shadows. He asked, "What's wrong?" She whispered, "Someone is calling me," for days afterward. She became quiet again, distant. At breakfast, she smiled, but her eyes looked far away. Daniel noticed and finally said, "If there's danger, tell me." She hesitated. "It might be my people. They are searching for survivors." He asked softly, "You want to go back?" Lyra looked at him, then at the children drawing on the table. Her voice trembled. "I do not know where I belong anymore." That night, lightning flickered across the sky again. Lyra stood by the window, watching reflections of the family in the glass. Daniel's daughter was laughing, his son pretending to fly a toy ship, and for the first time, Lyra smiled without sadness. She whispered to herself, "This house has 3 hearts now." Outside, far beyond the colony lights, a small alien probe floated in the darkness, blinking as it sent a message back to the stars. A voice echoed faintly through its signal, cold and metallic. "Target located, prepare retrieval." But inside the warm little house, laughter covered the sound. Lyra sat by the fire with the children, teaching them a song about courage and kindness. And Daniel watched her, knowing something was coming, but not yet knowing what. For now, he only wanted to keep that peace for one more night. Morning light touched the silver fields of Pearl Haven. The colony looked peaceful, but inside Daniel's home, something had changed. Lyra was quiet again, her smile soft but distracted. She still helped the children with breakfast, but her eyes often turned toward the sky. For several nights she had been hearing a faint humming. It came not from the machines or the wind, but from far beyond the clouds, a signal, pulsing in a rhythm only her kind could feel. When Daniel noticed her pale face, he asked, "You hear it again, don't you?" She nodded slowly. "Yes, they are searching, and they are close." That evening, Daniel met with the colony's communication officer. He asked if there were any strange readings around the western ridge. The officer frowned. "We picked up some unknown transmissions." "Maybe alien tech," Daniel returned home, knowing what it meant. He found Lyra sitting on the porch with Mira asleep beside her. Her voice was soft. "They will come for me soon," Daniel said quietly. "You don't have to go if you don't want to." Lyra turned to him, her silver eyes full of emotion. "If I stay, I may bring danger to your world." He shook his head. "You already brought peace to this house." She looked down, whispering, "They will not understand." They never do. That night, rain returned to Pearl Haven. Thunder echoed through the valleys as lights flashed in the distant sky. The children ran to the window, pointing, "Look, Dad, shooting stars." But Daniel saw something else. 3 faint glows moving in perfect formation. They were ships, sleek and silver, descending slowly. Lyra stood behind him, her hands trembling. "It's them." Moments later, a deep humming filled the air. The colony lights flickered. Communication screens went black. A voice echoed from the speakers, calm but commanding. "This is the Elorian Council. We come for one of our own." Daniel stepped outside as rain soaked his uniform. The ships hovered low, their beams scanning the ground. Lyra followed him, barefoot, her hair shining in the stormlight. "Don't move," Daniel whispered. "They'll think it's a threat." From the center ship, a blue figure appeared, an Elorian soldier in shining armor. He spoke in their ancient tongue, his voice cold. "Lyra I, you violated the non-contact law. You will return for judgment." Lyra's heart pounded. She took a step forward. "Please, I'm not a criminal. I found life here." The soldier raised his staff. "You found contamination." Daniel couldn't hold back. "She saved us. She saved children. Is that contamination? The soldier's eyes narrowed. You are not permitted to speak for her kind. Behind him, Myra ran out, shouting, Don't take her. She's our family. The girl clung to Lyra's leg, crying. Please don't go, Lyra knelt, holding Mira tight, her voice breaking. You must be brave. Little star. But Daniel stepped between her and the soldier. His jaw set. You'll have to take me first, for a moment. Everything froze, the rain, the lightning, the sound. Then the soldier lowered his weapon slightly. Confused, he looked at Lyra. You choose exile over return. Lyra lifted her head, tears falling. Yes. One choose them? A pause, long and heavy, filled the air. Finally, the soldier turned back toward his ship. Then you are no longer of Eloria, he said coldly. The ship slowly ascended, disappearing into the clouds. Silence returned, broken only by the rain. Lyra fell to her knees, her body shaking. Daniel put his coat over her shoulders, whispering, It's over now. But she shook her head. No, it's beginning. They will mark me as lost. I can never return. Daniel looked at her gently. Then welcome home. Inside, the children wrapped blankets around her and offered hot tea. Mira whispered, You're safe now, Lyra smiled faintly. You humans. You fight not with weapons, but with hearts. Daniel chuckled softly. It's the only way we ever win. That night, when the storm cleared, Lyra stood outside one last time. She looked up at the sky, whispering something in her language. A single tear rolled down her cheek, glowing like a falling star. Then she smiled, whispering in English, I am free. Behind her, Daniel opened the door and said, Come inside, teacher. Your students can't sleep without you. She turned, her silver eyes warm again, and walked back into the light. Inside the small house, 3 hearts beat in harmony. And far above, among the stars, the Ilorian fleet turned away, carrying only silence. Weeks passed since the Ilorian ships left Pearl Haven. The colony returned to normal life, but inside Daniel's house, everything felt different. Lyra tried to smile, yet a quiet pain lived behind her silver eyes. She had chosen exile, chosen love, but her body was changing, slowly growing weaker. At first, it was small things. She grew tired while walking up the hill. Her hands trembled while cooking. Daniel noticed it and asked, You're not sleeping well? She smiled faintly. My body was made for another world. Your air is heavier. Your food is strange. He frowned. We'll fix it, she laughed softly. Humans always think they can fix the stars. Daniel contacted the colony's science team. Together, they ran tests and studied her biology. The results were strange. Her cells were adapting, but not as expected. They were changing, mixing with something human, something new, the doctor said. It's like she's rewriting herself to survive here. Daniel looked at Lyra, both amazed and afraid. She simply said, Maybe your world is teaching me to live again. Days turned into nights filled with quiet hope. Mira and John spent hours drawing pictures of stars and strange creatures. They said they were helping Lyra remember her home. In truth, they just wanted to make her smile. Sometimes she would hum an alien lullaby while the children painted beside her. The air felt soft and full of peace, even as her strength faded. One evening, Daniel found her sitting by the window, her skin glowing faint blue. He said gently, You shouldn't push yourself. She smiled weakly. Look, the moons are in harmony tonight. He sat beside her, watching the silver sky. She whispered, If I disappear, promise me you'll tell them I was happy. Daniel turned to her, his voice low but steady. You're not going anywhere. Not while I'm breathing. Later, the doctor came with a small vial of glowing liquid. He said it might help stabilize her, a serum made from both alien and human DNA. Lyra hesitated, afraid of what it might do. Daniel held her hand and said, "Trust us." "You've trusted me before." She nodded and closed her eyes as the serum entered her veins. For a moment, nothing happened. Then a pulse of light spread across her skin. Her body glowed softly, like starlight flowing through water. When she woke, she felt different, lighter. Her heartbeat echoed with strange energy. "Neither human nor alien," the doctor whispered. "Her cells are generating a hybrid code. It's impossible." Daniel only smiled. "Nothing's impossible anymore." Lyra looked at her hands, trembling. "What am I becoming?" He answered softly, "Something new, something ours." Over the next few days, her color returned, her energy grew stronger. She laughed again, cooking breakfast and telling jokes in her broken human language. Mira said, "You sound funny when you try to say pancake." Lyra smiled. "Then you teach me, little teacher." The home was bright again, filled with warmth and laughter. But one night, Lyra's body began to shimmer with light again. The children gasped as tiny golden sparks floated from her skin. The doctor rushed in, scanning her vitals. "It's not pain," she whispered. "It's creation." Her body was producing pure stem energy cells that could heal wounds and cure disease. The doctor stared in awe. "Her body is generating life energy." Daniel took her hand. "You can't have children, but you just gave something far greater." Tears filled Lyra's eyes. "Then maybe I am a mother after all." The next morning, word spread across the colony. The serum made from Lyra's cells saved 2 injured miners and a sick child. People who once feared her now came to thank her, bringing gifts and flowers. She smiled humbly, saying only, "I did nothing alone. It was this home that gave me life." Daniel stood behind her, watching with quiet pride. That evening, as the family gathered for dinner, Myra said softly, "Mom Lyra, will you sing again?" Lyra blinked, surprised, but she didn't correct the child. Instead, she sang the same lullaby she had once hummed alone under the moons. This time, the words sounded warm and alive, filling every corner of the room. When the song ended, Daniel whispered, "You gave us more than we ever hoped for." Lyra smiled. "No, Captain, you gave me a reason to hope." Outside, the twin moons rose above Pearl Haven, their light wrapping the small home in silver glow. Inside that home sat a human, an alien, and 2 laughing children. And somewhere deep in the universe, a forgotten world recorded a faint signal from afar. Energy unlike anything ever seen before, born not from machines, but from love, and the voice of the narrator closed softly. Sometimes family is not what we are born into, but what we choose to build. Years passed on Pearl Haven. The colony grew brighter and larger, a place where humans and aliens now worked side by side. Children played under the twin moons, singing songs in 2 languages, human and Elorian. And in a small house on the western hill, a story that once began with sorrow now lived as legend. Lyra became a teacher at the Colony Learning Center. Her classroom was always full, filled with laughter, light, and tiny hands reaching for the stars. She taught about kindness, about courage, and about the old worlds that forgot what love meant. The children adored her glowing eyes and gentle smile. Sometimes they would ask, "Teacher Lyra, what's your homeworld like?" She would pause, smile softly, and say, "My home is right here, with all of you." Daniel worked as a science officer now. He helped build the first hybrid research lab using both human and alien technology. Many scientists came to study Lyra's gift, the living energy inside her that could heal and renew. But Daniel always reminded them, it's not just science. It's love that made it possible. Mira and John grew older, stronger. Mira wanted to be a healer like Lyra, and John dreamed of becoming a pilot to explore the stars. They still called her Mom Lyra, and she still blushed every time. At night, the family would sit outside, watching the sky filled with ships and silver lights. Daniel would say softly, "You see that, Lyra? The galaxy's changing because of you." She would shake her head gently. "No, Captain, because of us." One evening, during the Festival of Unity, the colony gathered in the main square. Lanterns floated into the air, glowing like tiny suns. People from different species stood side by side, laughing, sharing food, and telling stories. Lyra stood on the stage, nervous but smiling. As the governor asked her to speak, she looked over the crowd and said in her calm, melodic voice, "I once thought being barren meant I could never create life. But I learned that life is more than birth. It's what we give each other every day." Her words echoed through the square. Soft and full of truth, people clapped, some cried, and Daniel's eyes shone with pride. After the speech, a small alien child came forward, holding a flower made of starlight glass. He said, "My mother was saved by your serum." "Thank you." Lyra knelt and hugged him gently, whispering, "You're welcome, little star." At that moment, she realized something deep life always finds its way. In hearts, in love, and in hope. That night, Daniel and Lyra walked back home together under the glowing sky. The children ran ahead, their laughter echoing through the quiet streets. Daniel said, "You know, the universe feels smaller now." Lyra looked up, her silver eyes reflecting the twin moons. "No, Captain, it feels like home. Inside the house, the walls still glowed faintly with her old markings. On one wall, Mira had written in glowing ink, 'Family is not made by blood, it's made by love.'" Lyra smiled at the words and touched them softly. Daniel whispered, "That's your legacy." She turned to him and said, "No, that's ours." As night deepened, the sky shimmered with thousands of stars, far beyond the colony. A single Elorian ship drifted through the void. Inside, a young officer watched the stars and whispered. The lost one found her peace. Then the ship turned away, leaving behind only a faint signal, a melody of light and hope. Back on Pearl Haven, the camera slowly pulled away from the small glowing house. Lyra stood on the porch with Daniel and the children, waving to the night sky. Their laughter mixed with the soft hum of the universe. And the narrator's voice ended quietly. Across galaxies and generations, one truth remains: love is the greatest creation of all. The screen faded to black, and the final words appeared, glowing like starlight. HFY Sci-Fi Story. Humanity always finds a way.